Welcome everybody, this is Cindy at Junkbox Studio. Today I'm going to be taking this memory book paper and I believe it's a candlestick holder that I thrifted, and I'm going to be making a wall plaque. And so I'm taking some of this memory book paper and just trying to find the best parts of it that I can use in those little compartments there on the wood plaque. And so, if you have memory book paper laying around, I know it was very popular for a while, and you may have some left over. I did. I've had this for years, and I just kind of wanted to use what I already have in my supplies and not go out and purchase a bunch of stuff for my projects. And I just thought this paper was so pretty, and so I'm just trying to locate the best variations of these flowers. And so I pre-made a little template there out of like a cardstock, and I'm just going around. I end up cutting out more than I needed. That way I can kind of lay them out and see how I like them. I've got those all cut out, and now I'm just going to play around and see where each one fits best. I kind of wanted to stagger the variations of color. And so I do a lighter gray and then that antique white, and then, just kind of see which ones are best. I end up going with that one there at the bottom. I'm using the apple barrel in the color Warm Buff. I've been using it quite a bit here in my last few projects. It's just a really nice alternative to a pure white. And so I'm starting off with the back here, and I do just one light coat over the entire piece. I don't want it to be, a solid paint. I really am going for a whitewashed effect, and then I sand it quite a bit after. Now I'm taking each of those pieces that I cut out and just placing them where I want. I decided I wanted to crumple them up just to give it a kind of a vintage look. Sometimes when you have just the flat paper, it can look a little too papery, I guess. And so this was one of the hardest things for me to get used to is, you've got one sheet of paper that you want to use left, and you take the time to cut all those out, and then crumpling them up. It's a little, nerve-wracking, but it always ends up working out. And so by doing that and sanding, I'm able to take off just a very slight amount of the paper, just to distress it, just very, very lightly. And sometimes I tend to go a little overboard, but I was able to control myself this time and get those sanded down. Next, take a little bit of Mod Podge and just throw it in there. I don't get too particular with anything. And also, when you cut these circles, I have learned that being precise is not always the best way to go. I got them in there matched up pretty good, but there's a little bit of edge hanging over. But once you get them glued down and pressed in all around the edges, it really ends up looking, I guess it's kind of like a fussy cut. You don't have to get real precise. You just cut the edges, get them in there and press it down, and it always ends up looking really nice in the end. Okay, so now I've got the instant coffee and a little bit of water. Just make sure if you make a fresh batch that you really get those grounds dissolved, because they can end up landing on the fabric and looking a little, maybe a little too rustic. But so I got it blended up pretty good there. And I'm taking this, I am not even sure what this is. I've had it for a long time. It's like a thick cotton ribbon, and it's on a roll. I thrifted somewhere. And so I just decided to use this. And so I spray it down a little bit first with some water, and that just helps the coffee stain go on a little bit better. You can control it. The color, you don't want to just dump a bunch on, it gets real dark. So that's a little too dark for me, but I know that this will dry lighter, so I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, I just continue to spray it down with water each time I apply the coffee stain. Here I'm just taking my ribbon pieces and measuring them out and getting them all cut up. It is time to make some bows. My least favorite part. I think I'm going to have to get a bow dabra. I've seen people use. It might make this a little bit easier process for me. But instead, I am going to use a little bit of hot glue to tack these down. The ribbon gets a little floppy and moves around on me. So I'm just tacking them down really, really lightly with hot glue. And that seems to work for now. Now I'm using a little bit of wire in the center there to hold all these together. Instead of tying them in bows, it's just easier to control. And so I'm just kind of eyeballing where I want this to go. I decided I wanted to take a little scrap piece of that original ribbon and tie it around the handle to make it look like it's tied around, but it's just a little bit cleaner and lies flatter. And so I'm just going to hot glue that right on there. And so I'm going to add a button to the bow just to hide the wire and give a finished look. And for the final process, my favorite, the distressing ink. And I wasn't going to, use this originally. It wasn't in the plan. But for some reason, I took a look at the bow at the top, and I just wanted to put some shading right underneath that button. And then it turned into a whole thing. And so I actually really love how it looks. And so, and it's so much fun. I just love using this ink. It's my new favorite. Normally, in the past, I would have used either a stain or a brown paint, and it ends up looking kind of streaky and it's hard to control. This way with the ink, it's my new favorite technique, and so this is just a lot of fun. So here I wanted to show, when I did the crinkling and the sanding of the paper and it had those cracks, there's a little, it would leave like white from the paper, and I just wanted to show you, when you take the ink and go over those little sanded parts, it stains those little white cracks and kind of pulls the whole piece together. And so I just wanted to show you guys that. So I realized when I was doing this technique, it kind of reminds me of the old toll painting from the 80s and early 90s, but just in a new updated way. And so I thought it was kind of funny because I never really did the toll painting, but I remember vaguely what it looks like. And so I think this kind of looks a little similar. But anyways, thank you guys so much. I hope you enjoyed this project, and I will see you next time. Bye.